Dr. Alan Berger, thank you for coming out and being a part of this. It means a lot to us. I think one of the fun things for me has been seeing where we've come from in this, and you really, truly are one of the guys who has started and fanned this and brought it to where it is, and we're all standing on your shoulders. Thanks for being here.
Well, listen, Ben, I really appreciate what CEDAR has done in terms of putting together such a top-notch conference, man. I've sat in many of the presentations. It's top drawer, and you guys have done just a fantastic job organizing it. And I appreciate that you see in the point that I'm trying to make is, see, I want people to see that there's been an evolution of our thinking in this field, and there have been some of the shoulders of giants that I'm standing on that we've forgotten about. Like in my talk today when I was talking about Virginia Satir and Fritz Perls and Nathaniel Brandon and Alexander Lowen and Rollo May. These were just such influential thinkers and master therapists at the time. And the problem has been in the recovery field is that the recovery field evolved over here while the psychotherapy field evolved over here. And what I'm trying to do in my career, Ben, is to blend these, is to bring them together, because there's so much we can learn from those folks that were these master therapists. Yes. And that's the basis of all of my writing in my books with Hazelton. I try whenever possible to take some of these ideas and to show people that what we're talking about, like even the 12 steps like I talked about today, they're grounded in these strong psychological principles that create change, man. So it's exciting, and I'm glad that you appreciated it today.
Cool. I did. You presented a new topic, being and becoming who we truly are. That's paraphrased. There were some real standout things for me here that I want to go just a little bit more into. So, is you're looking at how we have been desensitized as to how we're feeling. You discuss distractions as one of the reasons to the desensitization. Other than the very obvious pulling distractions out of life, anecdotes for that. Anecdotes, not anecdotes.
The biggest distraction has been the idea that who you are isn't enough for you to be loved and accepted. See, that's the biggest distraction for all of us. That idea, the desperation behind that somehow I'm not going to be loved and accepted, starts us to search for some solution, Ben. And then what happens is we grab onto this idea that if I become this self that I think I should be, I'm going to be okay. And as soon as that happens, now, instead of actualizing the self that we are, we start to try to become something we're not. And I'll tell you, Ben, that's the trouble. And once we get caught into that, first of all, it feels like the right thing to do at the time we're doing it, right? We don't have a picture of where it's going to be. Like the guys that were coming back from the moon, what was that, Apollo 11 or 13 when they had that problem? And they're trying to get back, and if
13,
they were 13, yeah. Apollo 13. So when they were heading back, if they were a degree off on their trajectory back to Earth, well, it didn't matter much at the time they left the moon. But by the time they got to Earth, they would have missed orbit completely. Well, it's the same thing that happens with our true self. If we're off just 1 degree back then, by the time we hit 30, 40, 50, well, we can't get in orbit around our true self anymore. We've lost ourselves so badly. So that's what this was about today, is helping people see that if I can start to become aware of the veer that I've taken in my development and become aware of all the demands and the unenforceable rules that creates, I can start to unravel that and get grounded in who I am and start to be able to stand and support myself. And when I do that, then I'm not going to be so emotionally dependent on you.
When you talk about all the outside influences and internal, I mean everything that causes us to deviate from true self, I think it's almost impossible for the 35-year-old in the audience not to contextualize that culturally. Yeah. How I've grown up, what I see out there in the world, and I've even missed most of it. You know, the constant cell phones, the internets. I'm no millennial. Your perspective's different, but even those who you quoted and referenced in here, I mean, 70, 80 years old sometimes, Square some of this up, contextualize this culturally for me, because my tendency is to say this is a 21st century problem, this absorption that keeps us away from reflection.
I see what you're talking about. Look, it changes with each generation, right? So now, these current generations, the idealized self of this generation looks very different than the idealized self of the 40s. Or the idealized self of the 50s. You follow me?
But the pressure was equally as big, you're saying.
You got it. It's that same thing, is that somehow I've got to be like this, I've got to have all this to be okay. Right now, if you don't have the new technology, as a kid, you feel what? I'm less than the other kids. See, so now our value starts to be measured in terms of, hey, did I get iPhone, what are we at now, 5 or 6, or I forgot now.
I'm behind.
Right? You're behind. Oh my God, you are behind? Seriously. Ben's on tape saying he's behind on this.
I got no Twitter or Facebook.
Oh my!
And I haven't had TV in 14 years.
And you're willing to say this on tape?
I love it.
This is amazing.
I like to read.
This is amazing. I love it, Ben. But see, that's the problem. So it just shifts depending on what's being emphasized. You know, what we think is the self I need to be. What fits into the current trends, the current culture. So it keeps adapting. But the point I wanted to make is that the problem's the same. You see, it's that somehow we're not encouraged to be the self we truly are. I call it a conspiracy against the true self. I hope that's not a paranoid delusion left over from my acid juice, but it may be true that there's a conspiracy.
If it is, I understand it.
Well, then we both are in that a folie à deux. Is that what that I think that's what that's called. But see, that's the issue here, is that we, even today, you know, we always get pulled away from who we are. You're not encouraged. Like that example I gave of that boy coming home with the clay model. You know, when the mom starts to say how great that is, that you did that at school, now the boy's saying, what do I need to do to please mom next? Instead of thinking, wow, it's important to do things I like to do. That's being centered in your own life and having that center of gravity that I talked about, that emotional center of gravity within.
So what are other things that pull us away from that? If we all start, you had the slide where you said we start true.
Yeah.
And what are the...
Well, listen, your family dynamics pull you away. Obviously, the more dysfunctional a family, like when John Lee spoke the other day, when he talked about the effects of that on our passivity, right? See, your true self is going to mobilize and do what you need to do. But John pointed out very well how if you grow up in a dysfunctional family, you're going to end up being wounded in such a way where you're going to end up passive. And that's going to prevent you from being responsive. In Gestalt theory, we call it responsible, which means being able to respond to what's important. Well, you can't do that if you're passive. So dysfunction in a family is another example of what you're talking about.
Clearly the first opportunity we'd have probably in life is those around us screwing us up a little bit.
Well, listen, yes, exactly, because they weren't in touch with who they were either.
Right.
And so they bought into this lie that you have to be something you're not to be okay.
Right.
And so all they can do is pass on that kind of a wounding. And, you know, and hopefully at some point in time we break the chain. You know, we talk about breaking the cycle of violence. But how about if we break the cycle of abandoning ourselves and learning how to support ourselves and to really stand with ourselves? And that doesn't mean being selfish, because a part of you and a part of me wants to cooperate with other people. So when I say I'm being myself, it doesn't mean I'm not interested in you. It's just that I'm going to try to balance my interest in you with my interest in myself, so that I don't make you more important than me and I don't make me more important than you. See, that's what a healthy, functioning person looks like. I didn't get to talk about this. We only had an hour and a half today, but I'm amazed that I got it into an hour and a half, to tell you the truth. But the real goal for a relationship is I to thou, which means that I'm here with you and enjoying you as you are, and you're enjoying me, kind of like what I'm going to hope is going to happen in this interview with us. Is that, you know, I get to see you, where you're coming from, you get to be with me. I've got no agenda. I'm not trying to have you do something right now that I'm aware of. Your agenda is just to try to talk with me and try to bring out some of this stuff. So we're meeting each other just to be with each other. And that's what a pure relationship looks like, man.
That is a perfect segue to the last question that I have for you.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
It's almost like I read your notes. And I didn't. Yeah, look at it. See, now he's hiding them from me. Oh my goodness.
I think I need you to elaborate a little and also to pull some people back from the ledge, because as I hear you talk and I consider this journey towards true self and really the beautiful idea and concept that that is, the honesty and the integrity that that takes, my fear is that for some folks there's going to be a license to become egomaniacal, narcissistic, self-centered prick because it's all me. So square up with me the idea that we have work, and man, we have real work we have to do. We have to change. We have to be true to who we are.
So here's something that, and a lot of people say this, and I hear this comment a lot, Ben, and it really, think about it this way. The more I learn how to take care of myself and stand on my own 2 feet, the less narcissistic I am, the less selfish I am. Because what I said to you is we're driven by 2 needs. It's the desire to be together, to join, also the desire to be myself, to have my individuality. If I'm really, really standing on my 2 feet, those are the 2 feet I'm standing on. I want to connect with you, but I also want to hold on to myself. So it's not that I just enter a relationship selfish. I'm interested in you, but I'm also going to be interested in me. And I'm going to try to protect myself from compromising my integrity to just be what you want me to be. Just like if I'm healthy, I'm not going to let you compromise your integrity. So if you start to do something that you don't want to do, and we're in a relationship, if I'm a real good partner, you know what I say to you? Hey, Ben, don't bother. I don't want you to give yourself up. I care for you more than having you just do something that you want to do. I don't want to get that from you. What I'd rather have you do is have your integrity. That's what true love is, man, is that we encourage each other to operate from our full integrity, and we don't accept anything that's not given with an open hand. You're not going to be selfish if you're doing that. You're going to be holding on to yourself, is what I call it. You're going to be honoring yourself, and you're going to be able to have what Erich Fromm described as the really mature love. He says it's union with the preservation of integrity. I join you, but I don't get lost in you. I come together with you, but I keep a sense of myself. And that, my friend, if we can have that, we'll have a lot more peace in this world too.
Eloquently said. Thank you.
Thank you
very much. See you next year.